And up first this week is going to be Everything is Worth Killing, Isaac's Tale, an apocalyptic LitRPG written by Alex Oakchest. This is 502 pages, $4.99. It is available on Kindle Unlimited. And here's the author's description. 2 wingless, rock-spitting dragons, dozens of warmongering ogres, hundreds of dynamite-wielding gnomes, and one normal guy in the middle of it all. Bad mornings. We've had them all. But what if you woke up in a post-apocalyptic land filled with wizards, dragons, and ogres? Not only that, but you woke up as a prisoner of a clan of mages who didn't even speak your language. What if these guys expected you to know magic, but left you to figure it out for yourself on how to cast it? These are the problems Isaac must solve, and what he's going to do when death comes knocking at the door, he's going to blast a fireball through the letterbox and send death running. But first, he just needs to learn how to even cast a fireball. Follow his journey through a land filled with creatures that want to kill him, and watch as he refuses to let them, accompanying him into a land of mystery and danger where life is tough at learning spells and skill stakes work. A land where Isaac is determined to stop being the prey and become the predator. This is his journey to make allies and friends in this new world. A journey through battles against slavers, ogres, wingless dragons, and gnome dictators. Through experimentation and adaptation, where he learns that killing one enemy helps him against the next. This is also a journey to find him a warm, comfy bed. This is a tale of someone who used to be a normal guy. It's Isaac's tale of adapting to a world where everything is worth killing. So there you go. Not a bad description of the novel, also not completely accurate though. It talks about it being a apocalyptic LitRPG story. Not really, it isn't. Most of the time because you get to see the apocalypse happening, and in this case, it almost feels like in the story the main character wakes up on a different fantasy world, with maybe slightly modern architecture sometimes, but that's at the extent of like the apocalyptic feel of this. Other than that, it feels more like a transported to a fantasy kind of story. This is a very light lit RPG story, and it honestly again feels more like a straight portal fiction story for the first 25% of the novel. And most of that first 25% of the novel actually feels more like a goblin language lesson scenario, with the main character trying to learn the language of the green people that saved him from the wild, because he disappears. And he's saved by these people from starvation and wilderness and monsters. And I'll be honest, that first time I was like, this is LitRPG. I'm not really seeing anything here that corresponds to that. Eventually, you do get to see the notifications that pop up that correspond to skills and progressions of power. It's there, but it is relative. Like there are definitely sections of the novel where it's just like straight feels like Portal Fantasy for like 10-15% of the novel, and then okay, you get another notification for something. So it is super light LitRPG. I think the story on its own is still actually good, but it's not going to satisfy anybody that I was looking for something crunchy, even remotely. You could actually probably take out the notifications and some of the progression system in here, and the story wouldn't change a lot. Some of it would definitely change, but for the most part, it would kind of be the same. And so, like I said, it's light LitRPG because the game mechanics are there. They're part of the story. They're consistently used. So it's not like the author went in and inserted them or anything. But again, they're not kind of the focus. Like a lot of the magic system and the way he interacts with other beings feels very much like more normal fantasy, especially to the degree that the main character has to learn a language before he can actually talk to anybody, before he can actually interact with them. I mean, that's literally the first 25% of the story is him talking to these goblin creatures, who are called goblins. I'm just gonna call them goblins because they're green and they have pointy ears and stuff. And literally trying to do a word by word understanding of what their language is, and it becomes an important part of the story. So it's a nice setup, but you kind of have to push through that if that's not really something if you're not interested in goblin linguistics. You're gonna have to push through that a little bit. There's a little bit of action there, but after that 25%, the story does get better because he understands enough, and the character understands enough that he can kind of translate what everybody's saying, and so you actually have conversations finally after that point. And from there on, it's like this cycle of training, magical practices, and some action as the tribe faces several threats. And that that language learning is a part of the magic system in the story. It's an actually interesting extension, but I wasn't sure where it was going with it until after that 25% mark. So I'd say give it a shot if you're interested in that kind of stuff. It does get about a 20% mark, but if you're at the 30% mark and you're still not digging the story, it really doesn't get that much better. Like it some action happens, but if you're still not into it at that point, it's probably not going to work for you. Again, there is progression of power, the notifications, clear magic system, but it's not a big part of the story. So just be aware of that. I did like the magic system in the story. It was interesting, well thought out. There were clear rules that the main character works out through intellectual deduction, which I thought was a good character trait for the main character. I've always appreciated a smart main character who can figure things out and not just get lucky or stumble into power. Actually, that main character really does work for it. And overall, again, after that got past that 25% mark, I did enjoy the story. Once you could talk to people and there were conversations and you could learn about these different cultures and these different monster groups around there and the different aspects of the story, the story actually gets a little bit darker, like really dark. Like the author's not afraid to like murder folks. So if you like a dark story, if you're okay with slice of life stuff, and you just kind of want to go on this journey in this world, I think this is a good LitRPG read. It's not my favorite from this author. He actually does another series, called, I think it's Dungeon Academy, which I probably like a little bit better. This one is still getting a good review score, but it's definitely on the lower end of things, mostly because, again, the RPG stuff is super light. And when I read LitRPG, I kind of like more of it than that. But the other parts of the story kind of did make up for it in that it is still entertaining, just not one of my favorite things. Gets a score of 7.2 out of 10. That's going to be Everything is Worth Killing, Isaac's Tale, an apocalyptic LitRPG with a score of 7.2 out of 10.